Welcome to episode 7. I thought we were rolling. You were doing so good. You couldn't keep it up.
Forever, and I was out of breath.
Well, you were. If you're gonna give me a beat that's slow, then how am I?
You're so picky, Joe.
No,
Welcome
do it.
to episode 7 of the Purpose Pro podcast. Mm-hmm. Our mission is to connect you to your unique purpose and design. If you love learning simple, effective ways to lead both yourself and others well, this podcast is for you.
Oh, you nailed it that time. I was grading you in the back of my mind. I was grading you, but yeah, that was good. I like it. You're
about mid-intro, I always get really self-conscious.
I know. Okay, so we're going to talk about failure on this episode.
Okay.
You know, and so far you've started off with success.
Whew. Wait, the beat was not.
Yeah.
But
sort of.
We'll try it again.
What a lot of people don't know about us is we actually wrote a book. It was for teens, and it's called Throat Punch Normal. You can get it on Amazon. It's not like we're plugging it or care if you buy the book or not. But
the title went over great in this Austin hippie culture.
Yeah, it did. But it's a journey of how you live a life that's beyond the norm. And one of the chapters in this book is the art of taking a throat punch, where we discuss the idea of failure in a little bit more detail. And that's exactly what we're going to get into in this episode, because by the end of it, we're going to give you 3 ways that you can train yourself to use failure to your advantage. And these are things that we have actually done. We've lived them out, and they are worth listening and applying.
I love it because inevitably something is going to happen.
Oh, yeah.
Like, we all survived 2020. We've talked about it a lot.
Right.
Life happens to us. Some of these failures we could have controlled. We would do things differently. We don't want to live in regret. Some of these things we have no control, and we just have to play the hands that were dealt.
Right. And it's not so much about, what happens to us. It's about how we respond to what happens. Or how we respond to falling short. That's the key, right? Because when we really look at it, we're pros at failure, professionals. Yeah. I mean, think about all the areas that you've screwed up on in your life. Like, how many times have you gossiped or talked trash about somebody? Maybe told a lie or a white lie. Maybe failed an exam or a test or whatever, it's like there's an infinite amount of things that we continue to fall short on a daily basis.
Yeah. I think of ideas with catalysts that we've wanted to pilot. They just didn't go like we thought they were going to go. And then I think of all the ideas that like we wanted to do, but never even like stepped out to try because of fear or whatever time. And ultimately we didn't do those things. So we failed those too just by not doing them.
Yeah. Some failures are more painful than others.
You have a story to tell, Joe?
Yeah, I mean, I'll admit, I got a ton of failures. So one of my most favorite failures actually cost me a lot of money. Early on in my investing career, when I was reading books and trying to learn how to do this, I'm a big guy that likes to learn by doing. So sometimes that means I want to experience the most pain up front. And I invested in a company, MoviePass. For those of you who remember MoviePass, it had a short run of fame, and
it was a great idea.
It was a perfect idea.
I have my card sitting in my sock drawer.
Right. Almost like Bitcoin today. It's kind of like, oh, this subscription thing, that's the way people are going to go in the future. And it is, but that doesn't mean that MoviePass was going to survive.
Yeah, no moat.
Yeah.
And so everybody else just took the idea and made it their own.
Yeah.
And it plummeted.
Oh, plummeted. And I went too deep. I put too much in, was too overconfident, had too little experience, and that company went bankrupt.
And so they say that every crisis creates unexpected problems and unexpected opportunities. Yeah. How did you respond to that? Did you start hiding your money under your bed?
Yeah, I think that, and that's a great question. That's what a lot of people do, right? It's like, okay, well, I guess I'm out. I'm not investing anymore. I'm done. I'm going to give my money. I'm going to put it into a mutual fund or whatever. So for me, it was, well, I just learned what not to do. And so
very expensive lesson.
Let's figure out what I did wrong and not do that again. And so I continued to research and find other ways to go about investing, and I finally landed on a group who taught value investing, and I was like, okay, this makes so much more sense. God, where were they 6 months ago?
Yep.
And ever since then, it's been amazing. I've been killing it, but not without that big loss.
Yep. I mean, that motivates you to learn it even better.
Yeah.
Like Andy Stanley used to say in his systems, like if you don't know why it's working, when it's working, then when it breaks, you're not going to know how to fix it.
Right.
And so you learned what was wrong, like how not to do it.
Right.
And now it motivates you to do it in the right way. Not just, and this is what I love, like not just for you to do it to make a lot of money, but you're now coaching others, taking, me under your wing and showing us what it looks like to invest in our futures in the right way.
Yeah. I don't know how you feel about Elon Musk. Like, this guy is very polarizing. He's either people's idols or he's like the Antichrist.
He's Iron Man.
Yeah, he's like, well, it could be Iron Man or Thanos at this point. We're not sure. Right?
Yeah.
So I say that because this guy's got a quote that I really love. I do look at what he does with kind of one eye and I'm like, okay, you're brilliant, but I don't know that you're truly in this for other people. You may be just in this for yourself. But here's a quote I want to read from him that I totally love. He says that failure is not an option. He's talking about Tesla, right? Employees. Failure is not an option here. If things are not failing, you are not innovating enough. And I talk about embracing the idea of falling short.
Yeah.
It's almost like, can you think about that? Can you even think about entering into your workplace and failure being something that's a mandate, right? If you're not failing, you're not innovating. If you're not innovating, you don't belong here. I love that, right? That might be a good fit for his core values. But the thing is, like, failure is an event. It's not a medical condition.
Yeah.
That's what all of us have to really understand at our core. It's a part of success. So.
Yeah, you always hear about like those entrepreneurs who start these big companies and then they crash.
Yeah.
Then they just start another big company because they learned how to do that. They have a skill set that's replicatable.
Yeah.
I love that. Like when I first read it, failure's not an option.
Mm-hmm.
Does it mean you can't fail? You're not going to fail?
Right.
No. It means you need to fail over and over again. But how do we do that? How do I get to the level of Elon Musk when my natural human tendency is just to be safe and secure and like shrink down?
Yeah. Well, we're going to talk about that because I think we've got 3 solid ways here that we can truly embrace failure. I want to share this before we dive into that. This is for all like the science geeks and nerds out there.
Okay.
Like, okay, if you love neuroscience, I'm going to read this. And I'll put the link to the article in the show notes. But when we experience a win, our brains release endorphins, dopamine, and serotonin, right? So all of that encourages us to actually engage in a task again, right? However, when we experience failure, our brains release cortisol and that basically doesn't leave us with feelings of acceptance or safety. So that chemical reaction is prompting us to stay away from something like that.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, at the core, we're pack creatures, right? Like at this primal physical level. And if you get outside of the pack, outside of your safety and security and just blending in, then you're in danger, right? Like the prey will come and get you.
Yeah.
But it's also those who step out ahead of the pack who are leading, innovating, and making change. It's the Elon Musk of the world.
It is. Speaking of leading, I'm gonna jump in here for a quick plug about our new certification program. And if you are somebody who would love to work with the next generation, maybe you've thought about mentoring, but feel like you don't have the time, you don't have the training, you can't commit to a year. Here's what we've done. We've created a certification program where you can be trained on how to have 6 one-hour conversations with a young person that radically change their direction. We've been doing this for years through the Purpose Project. You're going to be guiding them yourself through the Purpose Project. And the beauty is you only need an hour a week for 6 weeks to make an impact in a student's life. You can do it remotely, right? So you don't have to be physically present. You can have Zoom conversations with these students. and we're going to give you world-class training in order to get that done. So if that's something where you're like, okay, wait a minute, I'm interested in that, then I need you to go to our website, catalystcollective.community/get certified. Okay, and again, it's going to be in the show notes, so you want to make sure you get to that link. We talk a lot about the Purpose Pro, and that's the foundation for what we do. But as a nonprofit, the Catalyst Collective, that's where we get people involved in giving back to a lot of what the needs are in our world today. So
I love it. I feel like you wiped out all my excuses in that like quick little intro.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it's cheap, it's fast, it's accessible.
Yeah.
And it's for someone else. Okay, fine.
You'll love it. You'll be able to apply this training. You can apply it to anyone in your life. It's going to be amazing. Okay, so let's jump into 3 ways we can train ourselves to use failure to our advantage. Okay, I'm gonna jump into the first one. The first tactic is to divide goals into 2 categories: attainable goals and stretch goals. So I'm going to refer back to what we just read about the neuroscience kind of stuff, that when we experience a win of any kind, our brains are releasing these chemicals, endorphins, hormones, that are reaffirming that action. So a lot of times when we go to set goals, we're setting goals that aren't SMART goals, and we teach people how to create SMART goals, but they're either too far out, they're too ambitious, we don't chop it down into smaller attainable goals that we can do today, right? So if you can take what you want to do and put them into those 2 buckets, attainable goals and stretch goals, what you'll do is you'll actually push forward faster, right? Because you'll be creating excitement and a momentum by hitting all the small wins, the attainable goals, and before you know it, you're drawing closer to those stretch goals by doing the smaller goals that lead up to it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, totally. I think it's the big vision that motivates me, but then I have to reverse engineer from that big vision to think, what do I do today to start walking into those?
Yeah,
those visions.
So what we've done here for this episode is we've created a download. It's a free download. Again, you have to go to the site, show notes to get the download. But it's a weekly to-do list that you can prioritize, but it gives you those columns. The stuff that you must get done and the stuff that you want to get done. So we put those things into 2 different categories. The must get done is the attainable stuff. The want to get done is the stretch goals. So you give yourself grace in a week, and you're going to find yourself way more productive if you can structure it that way.
I love it because that paper will hold you accountable.
Yes.
Like, I don't want to lie to others, but I lie to myself all the time.
Yeah.
And so if my goal is to lose weight, then I've got to start eating better. I got to set those SMART goals. I've got to work out 3 times a week.
Yeah.
But I talk myself out of it every day.
Yeah.
So let that paper hold you accountable to what you want to do.
Yeah.
And then watch you actually start to take steps to get there.
Yeah.
Cool. Number 2, take time to dissect both your failures and your wins.
Yeah.
Was it luck that you ended up where you're at? Or was there something there that happened that can be repeated and or avoided if needed? Yeah,
and you kind of alluded to this earlier, but like when we mess up, right? We beat ourselves up pretty good. We're like, how did that happen? What did we do wrong? But when we win, when we have success, we oftentimes don't know why we had the success. So we have to be just as intentional about dissecting those times that we won and figure out what did we do that we can repeat.
Yeah.
What was the formula there in some way, shape, or form?
That's good. I mean, I realize like when I mess up, I'm like, oh, that guy really, he messed me over. Or, oh, it's because of this, that. I can make excuses. And then when I win, I'm like, oh man, I did great. It's me. It's not them. It's me.
Yeah.
And so, I think we have to be really, really radically honest with what went wrong there. What would I do differently? And just in the self-awareness of thinking through that situation, we can do it differently the next time.
Yeah.
Somebody said you can make excuses or you can make progress. You can't do both.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. I think about in this category too, I think a lot about, the craziness of investing this year and how almost everybody's in the stock market chasing electronic vehicle stocks, cryptocurrencies, GameStop, meme stocks, whatever it is, and that's scary to me.
Yeah.
Because when you won, you don't know why you won, and when you lost, you don't know why you lost. It's kind of like treating the stock market as a casino.
Yeah.
Right? And that never ends well.
Well, and you hear stories of people winning.
Right.
And so I just try and do what they did without the work that it took them to do that.
Yeah.
And inevitably he'll lose.
Yeah, because if you don't know when to get into a stock, you're not going to know when to get out of it.
Yeah.
And if you're not doing the research and you're thinking, oh, you know what? Cryptocurrency, it's the future. Bitcoin's the future. Well, cryptocurrencies might be the future, but it doesn't mean Bitcoin is going to survive or Ethereum is going to survive. These things might be, edition 1.0 of cryptocurrencies, and they'll fail and go to zero. And a new cryptocurrency will come along that's version 2.0, right? And that's the thing. You don't know, right?
I've got time in hands, Joe.
Yeah.
I'm holding on for dear life to the moon.
How about you do?
I want those tendies.
This isn't investing advice. We're not your financial counselors on this podcast or anything like that. We're just sharing our opinions and talking about the reality of failing.
Just like the company.
Yeah,
That's what they always say on Reddit.
Right.
Yeah.
So number 3, find at least one reason to be grateful for your failure. Gratitude. I think Gary Vee talks about this a lot.
Yeah.
Right? Gratitude. Like just waking up every day and like, man, how many times do we say thank you for today? And when we experience falling short of something, thank you for this lesson. Mm-hmm. What was the lesson? Like being grateful for it. Did it keep me humble, this failure? Did it create a learning experience that made me wiser? Did it expose a weakness in my strategy? There's so many different things that I could look at and say, okay, missed that, but what did I learn?
Yeah, I think just that approach will make this whole life way more navigatable. Like, I think sometimes my biggest failures, I can look at them and just say, man, I'm proud of myself for taking the risk. I want to be bold. I want to like make the ask. I want to be ambitious. I want to be innovative. And I know I have to keep putting myself out there.
Yeah.
Then at the same time, like you survived. Whatever it is, you're still listening to this podcast.
Yeah.
So maybe you're on the other side of it, but you get to fight another day. And so, things to be grateful for all over the place.
Real story this week, I sat in front of a big potential donor, and I only had 30 minutes. So I kind of had my pitch script. Okay, here's what we're doing. And we just connected so well. And we had so much fun just kind of talking that I never asked him to donate.
Now's your chance.
Yeah. Oh, man. So I was like, okay, Joe, let's dissect that one. Great rapport, there. Good storytelling, but you got to make an ask, moron. Yeah, that's what I told myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so how do we start this process of failing forward, of putting ourselves out there, of overcoming fear and failure, fear of failure? You made this super practical.
Yeah. You got to embrace these 3 things. You've got to practice them. They can't just be good advice. You actually have to make your goals more manageable. You have to take time to study the wins and losses, right? You've got to, force yourself to find gratitude, and you got to be around people that encourage you. Quite honestly, yeah. If we have a 4th bucket, that's it. It's people who handle failure well, who can quickly give you perspective.
Yeah, that's real. Like finding a community that supports you either way.
Yeah.
I thought early on when I was young in leadership, I would rise on the praises of people as long as people were like, telling me how good I was doing or how much potential I had or whatever. I was great. But then as soon as I started hearing criticism, I dropped.
Yeah.
It shut down.
Yeah.
And so find the people that can do both of those things in a way that edifies you and moves you closer to where you want to go.
Yeah.
So
there you go. It's the download, the weekly checklist in the show notes. You've got everything you need there. And hey, seriously, if you've even remotely considered maybe wanting to mentor or guide someone, but don't feel like you have the time or training, all you need to do is go to catalystcollective.community/get certified, and your only call to action is to schedule a call with us. 20 minutes, and we'll just talk about it. That's it. That's your only commitment.
Easy enough.
Easy enough. Okay. All right, man. We're nearing the end of this season
Already.
But this next episode, we have a retired Army colonel who is going to drop wisdom like you have never seen before or heard before.
Whoa.
It's going to be amazing.
From soldiers to students. And so I'm excited to see how his purpose transfers from one to the other.
Yeah, it's going to be good. All right, if you're listening, you're watching, and you love us, you better be sharing these episodes, subscribing, sharing them with your friends. We appreciate you guys, and we will talk to you soon.